One where they know they would like to be. I may call you any night, any day. In your heart, you'll hear it call you. Come away, come away. If you try, you'll find me where the sky meets the sea. Here am I, your special island. Come to me, come to me. Those people long for another Bali high, Bali high.
According to his suggestion, if you can only pray one mystery a day, the 4 sets of mysteries might be prayed on the following days: the joyful mysteries on Monday and Saturday, the sorrowful,
and lose forevermore the ability to get a proper professional job. So you lose your income, you lose your status, you lose pretty much your social life too. It's a huge step, you turn your life inside out. And yet, we felt it was worth it. Now, of course, what we're looking at, particularly in America, is the most appalling penalties being faced by these young people coming forward. We've had many, many whistleblowers come out in the last 15 years in America, particularly from the NSA, but also from the FBI as well, and the CIA. And they've all been at least persecuted, with their reputations left in tatters and no job to go to. And in many cases, they have been prosecuted and faced the most draconian of sentences. There was a man came out of the CIA a few years ago called John Kiriakou. I don't know how many of you have heard of him, but he actually exposed the fact that the CIA had a torture program. Now, have any of the torturers in the CIA been arrested and questioned and prosecuted? No. It's all been hushed up, covered up. John Kiriakou had. In the UK, under the Official Secrets Act 1989, you automatically face 2 years in prison per charge under the Act. And that's bad enough. I mean, nobody really fancies going to prison for 2 years, but it's bearable. The other effects, of course, are that the media, a lot of the media, can be controlled and spun by the spies and will wreck your reputation too. And of course, if that is not a war on whistleblowers, I do not know what is. And this comes from an assessment that was written, it was drafted. You are not going to have access to this information. You are not allowed to keep this book. You are not allowed to watch this film. So it's a perfect pincer movement. And we've seen this again, the sort of corporatization, should we say, the intermeshing. And this is a war on whistleblowers, particularly in the USA, because they use something called the Espionage Act, which dates from 1917, to prosecute whistleblowers. Now, this was never envisaged for whistleblowing. This was actually put in place to prosecute traitors, who get smaller sentences under it, by the way. And yet, this has been used, or threatened to be used, by President Obama since he came to office more times in his time in office, time and time again. And it is always, always in the name of these nebulous wars. So the first example is the war on drugs. Now, this has been going on since 1912, would you believe, when they first banned opium. But it only really ramped up in America in 1971, when the president at the time, Richard Nixon, declared his war on drugs. How can you fight a war against something, concept, drugs? But this has unleashed the biggest crime wave globally the world has ever seen, because by banning the trade, by pushing it underground, it has pushed the drugs flow through to get to their consumer markets, mainly these have devastated whole regions, of course, North America. One of the new routes for the drug trade from Latin America, the producer countries, to Europe is through West Africa. Now, this is an area that is being ravaged by fundamentalist terrorism. Whole country. The media. When you blow the whistle, when you go public about concerns at your workplace, you have no experience of how the media works. And this is true of any type of government or anything. You just do not know how the media works. Health. So that was an interesting and steep learning curve for us. Also, I've had the pleasure of working with a number of very high-profile human rights lawyers and seeing from the inside how the legal systems can be gamed and played by the authorities, with many hacktivists, hackers, and the geek community. And they do give me hope. The hacker community, the hacktivist community gives me hope that we might have a chance to push back against this encroaching surveillance state. And one of the other aspects that I'm now involved of law is working as people who have worked as police, they've worked as lawyers, judges, customs officers, which is a global organisation, intelligence officers, and even the occasional drug czar. And we all come together now, around the planet, to argue about the failure of drug prohibition, the failure of the war on drugs, the damage and horror that this war has unleashed across the planet. We, as free citizens, are currently up against. And then, of course, what can we do about it? And I would distill it down to the 4 wars that were mentioned in the introduction. The war on drugs, of course, is the oldest. It's been in place now for 40 years.